think I might revisit the stone effect. In a local landscape yard looking for some rocks, and as you can see here, we've got quite the bit to choose from. Righto, so when you're choosing your rocks, have a think about what the purpose actually is. But for my purposes, to actually have a rock like this adhere to the back wall, I'd need to cut it all the way through with a brick saw, and that would allow for a flat face for me to glue it to the back wall. But if I was to choose a rock such as this one, that's already got a broken face, it's going to be a lot easier for me to smooth off that face there with the grinder, and that will then allow a surface for me to glue it onto the back wall. It's a lot less work if I choose my rocks carefully. Already pre-cut a flat surface onto the rocks that are here. The ones that were the most naturally flat anyhow, I've just capitalised on that and ground that a little bit flatter with the grinder. Got those here. I've decided to go for this Bostik V2 glazing silicone, which is a silicone I use for building fish tanks, instead of using the polyurethane adhesive. Well, that's a bit embarrassing, isn't it? The reason being is because I feel like this silicone is designed for underwater use. Constant immersion. Whereas the polyurethane adhesive and sealant from Cromlin, I just wasn't completely sure if it could be immersed underwater the whole time. I had some trial goes here earlier on this morning, so they've only been going there for a matter of hours, and they're quite firm. You see this one here wants to slide down that way, so I might need to get a support in there for it. I'm just trying to emulate those layers that you see in the cut riverbank. It's going on 6:40 in the evening. I think I'm almost out of silicone, and the light's starting to fade, so I'm gonna have to call it a night, I think. I think what I've realised is we're better off with lots of smaller stones to create that kind of pebbly effect, and a lot of these sort of larger stones that I've got here, well, I'll probably have to use just on the base for substrate. Time to get some driftwood. I got George, I got the mule, let's go. This is the gateway to the Urara Valley, which is on the western side of the hills surrounding Coffs Harbour. So I'm lucky my state forest is quite close to my home, and it actually has plenty of these fly trails that lead us into the Urara Valley. There's a couple of creeks down here I haven't been to before. Yeah, that's pretty typical. Little creek coming out from underneath the trees and the palms. It's only about probably 20 centimetres or 8 inches deep. And then it crosses over the state forest track. Nice little plant. I don't know if it's a hydrocotyle or a glossostigma. It's a nice little creeping carpeting plant growing in the water there. Looks like it could grow actually both submerged and also emerged out of the water when the water dies down or dries down a little bit. The creeks just aren't big enough. not to get some nice pieces of chunky driftwood for turtles to sit on.
We're on the way back now.
I'm not sure how well you guys can see that, but out there is Coffs Harbour, and there's the ocean. So this is how far. It's not actually it's not that far from the ocean. It's about 5 minutes drive to the beach. But this is Big Boambi Mountain. This is some of my favourite forest around here. These beautiful gums with these lovely white trunks. It's absolutely, they're amazing. I love them. And when you come down the deeper areas of the gully, you come across these groves of bangalow palms, and that tree in the middle there is a tamarind, a native tamarind tree. It's actually a really, really lovely habitat. Beautiful. Except for that signpost in the front.
Ready? Let's go.
So I was just driving down through Coffs Harbour, and I noticed this awesome piece of driftwood from the side of the, well, not from the side of the road, but I was crossing over that bridge in my van, and thought I'd come and check it out, but this guy's a bit too big for me to take home. Another fantastic piece just there. Wouldn't call it a piece though, again, that's a whole tree. I got a big tank, but that's just a bit too big. Check this guy out. This guy's definitely too big. So this is a nice little mangrove habitat just off the side of Newport's Creek. Fantastic looking wood. And what I'm actually looking for is some nice sort of, I guess, trunk style pieces that would have roots, a bit like this. See, the roots are coming up and it's got the trunk, so I can actually lean it on a bit of an angle and the turtle can actually sort of come out of the water and bask. That's what I'm after. Haven't quite found it yet, but we'll keep exploring. So I've been eyeing off these pieces of wood for a while now. Thought how fantastic would it be to actually have this guy in the corner of the giant turtle and rainbowfish tank with the roots coming out into the water column. But the trouble is, this thing's massive. So this is the reason why I wanted to actually get the larger pieces of driftwood into the aquarium before the glass goes up, because these guys are just so heavy. They'd be so hard to try and lift it up and over and into the tank and then adjust it. What I'm trying to create here is a true to size, true to scale representation of what I would see in a creek or river behind Coffs Harbour. So an actual log jam. This is not a Takashi Amano, although I love Takashi Amano. This is not a Takashi Amano natural miniaturized scape where the driftwood's meant to represent an old growth forest. This is actually meant to represent exactly what it is, which is a log jam. And that log jam will allow the turtles to actually climb up and out of the water and bask in the sunshine and get dry, which is critical for their skin condition and their shell condition. So what I need to make sure with this log here is that there's sufficient space that will be up out of the water for the turtle to dry off. I'm only going to fill this tank to about 800 millimeters, which is that high. And the reason being for that is I want to have that margin of wall and glass around the top of the water column to prevent the turtles from climbing out. So that allows this section up here for the turtle to actually sit on and be completely dry. This section down here for them to be in that shallow water to be cooled but still sunbaking. I want to get more wood coming up out of here, but this is going to be a primarily open area for the fish to swim around in. And this is going to be more of a shaded, secluded area. I'll grow some Vallisneria, or eelgrass I guess you'd call it, back in here. But I've got this other piece of wood down here. So here's a tip: if you're going to use some driftwood, make sure you waterlog the driftwood before you aquascape. Otherwise, when you fill the tank with water, the whole lot will just float to the surface. You can weigh down your wood when you actually do your scape. You can weigh it down with rocks that you can remove later, or in my case, maybe sandbags. but it certainly helps if you can just get the process underway ahead of time. I want to see if I can do something with this. Well, that certainly is a log jam. I'm not quite sure if I quite like this or not. Too heavy. That might be better. Plenty of space for the turtles to dry up on. Plenty of nice shaded areas underneath. I still think this might tip down that way. That's the only trouble. And that might be even better. It's really important that turtles get out of the water and bask. Australian freshwater turtles. They don't climb around the ground, they don't wander around except when it's going to storm. Or if they're unhappy. I think that's pretty good. My plan is to create enough cover in this aquarium between the wood and the eelgrass for the fish to have plenty of refuge. And we'll see if the two can cohabit. Plenty of room here for the fish to escape turtles, and by means they're faster than turtles. I'll cut these taller pieces off, and that's actually roots. And that looks just like the roots that would hang down into the water from a shrub or a tree growing right up on the bank of the creek. And the roots will come down, some will be exposed when they've actually had the soil eroded away from them. So what I might do is cut that out, and I'll be able to use it attached up on the back wall in a certain place, and allow the roots to come down, and it'll look just like a shrub that's growing above the water line. So here's a close look at what we've done.
The main piece, that main whitish coloured piece, I've actually had to try and prop it up at a pivotal point just in the middle there on a V in the bottom driftwood, so we get that long ramping sort of line to it. I think that's going to be pretty stable. The bottom piece of wood I've had to prop up to get the correct height with some big stones. And then the browner log has created a good weight to this root size, this root area here. A bit of a counterbalance, I guess you might say. So it's not going to topple forward. So I think so far, we're on the right track.
Just remember, I'm trying to create true to scale here. This aquarium is 3.6 metres long, 1 metre high, and 1.2 metres front to back. So that's 12 foot by 4 foot by 3 foot, 3.5 foot high.